out right now in the mainstream narrative is that people get ambitious and driven to solve certain world problems. I've done this myself. I've gone through this and still address this concept of having a savior complex or wanting to help and save so much. I'm not saying that's bad, but we have to look out for our projections within that as well. And what I believe is happening is that we're not seeing the shadow side of what's being externalized within the world as a piece of what's calling forth to be revealed within ourselves. Interestingly, there's things that are going on that are quite obvious. I just posted a video the other day on Facebook from a psychologist who is a little bit of a whistleblower, so to speak, and he's kind of exposing that the majority of his colleagues have deep psychological issues themselves, and they hide it, and they actually kind of use their client as a means to go back and forth with their own inner development as well. We need to begin to actually realize the space between individuals and what's playing out in that invisible or energy field, what's going on there. So it's funny because he actually, made a video stating that this is very common actually. And we know this. We've heard people say, you go into the field that you need to work on within yourself, right? So it's kind of interesting because again, that mirror can be quite close, or you experience something that you need to look at within yourself, or you attract where you're at. This is a very feminine energy characteristic to oversee the whole, to caretake, to look at the spaces between the abstract meaning of life, to, the masculine has this kind of structural building energy and, cultivating his abstract meaning into purpose. And then the feminine has this skill of seeing the spaces in between that maybe were missed, or overlooking a broader community or environment. This goes on within ourself and our own psyche as well. We have these energies that play out through just an example of the right and left dominant energies and hemispheres of the brain. So it's a little bit difficult to see how deeply connected this inner world is with our outer world. And what we're seeing is a reflection of what's going on within, because most of us have never been taught what actually is going on within. We have this very reductionistic model of understanding ourselves, and it's traditionally very physical based. Or we have this, kind of bubble of what we believe in. Either we take a more of a religious point of view about things, or we take a very matter-based scientific approach to things. And, it's one of those things where we're actually all operating from both simultaneously, but how deeply you're willing to go into yourself to see this and develop this, because it is a development, and a difficult development of introspection and calling yourself out and doing self-work and healing some things and learning to see differently in just seeing the external and not really understanding these upstream implications that are deeply correlated with what's happening on the external. So the feminine energy of that caretaker, she's the natural ecologist. She wants all of the pieces to be making sure that they have their needs met, right? You can just think about a mother in a family, right? It's this person who's overseeing and multitasking and doing and noticing things that could be mitigated or course corrected. What I've seen repeated and happen in these realms where we're coming up with surface level solutions and never really making a big impact or a bigger shift or a development or an understanding is because we're trying to troubleshoot and focus on these ideologies and these concepts and put a Band-Aid, on a gaping wound, so to speak. And, we see this in aspects of the medical field, in all fields, in all institutions, and within ourselves. Right? Do you see how this is all very deeply related? And you can use the human body and the psyche as a means to be that template of becoming more aligned. So when you do go out into the world, the external, and you're working, that you're not attracting things in your environment that you are blind to see as actually what you need to integrate within yourself, this calling forth of seeing it so closely outside of yourself, because that's what you need to integrate. And this is a way in which we self-develop, often unconsciously. Often we can't see the struggle as something that lives within us. We just assume that that's toxic right off the bat and, demonize the external and run away from a potential lesson. And yes, it does require some discernment as so far as abuses versus lessons. But I think that we're radically devaluing the innate wisdom that comes out of suffering and staying in situations externally and using them as a mirror to refine yourself. But it takes a degree and a level of character within an individual to even have this worldview, to say, I'm going to stay in this difficult struggle because I know that there's something deeply important here and there's learning going on both ends, whatever that may be. And really understand the right brain, the left brain, the masculine energy, the feminine energy in a way that it's not projecting shadow to try to cultivate solution, because we never really fully get to evolve properly there. It just evolves very slow. Like it'll happen anyway, but it will be very slow, and there's just a lack of conscious awareness. And my call is, for us to value the inner work and the inner development that needs to take place. And again, I understand this is very vague as well too. We can say we need inner work, we need to do shadow work, we need to self-realize. That's quite nebulous as well. And, there are people that maybe individuals are attracted to, mentors or teachers that can help them along that journey. But there are people who are working on putting together systems and practices for individuals to actually integrate and do this work. And up until this time, integration has been quite occulted. It's been nebulous, it's been abstract, because these are very difficult concepts actually. And in the world that we've cultivated that's very matter-based and externalized, we're distracted, our attention is hijacked, our emotions are hijacked, and there's too many solutions for relief to avoid this kind of work, because it's not always easy and it's definitely not pretty. It produces consciousness. And this is really important, I believe, where we stand today. If we want to see true improvement, and if we want to have healthier relationships, and if we want to mitigate and make a difference within this world, I don't believe we can keep putting Band-Aids externally on gaping wounds that are just, it's like Mother Earth is bleeding out all over the place, right? With issues. So my clarion call is for us to continue diving deeper into ourselves and being more aware and slowing down and taking time away from the phone, from the distractions, from whatever it may be, TV or sports or all of these things we utilize to have pleasure with. I'm not saying don't have any pleasure, but I'm saying really monitor your day. And if you have a desire to contribute to a shift or something healthy, you have to start to live your life where you're spending most of your time doing more so self-reflective work while you're working in the world, rather than checking out and doing other things or being led by other individuals who don't even really know themselves. I mean, what does that say if our leadership is also being led and corroborating and working with other people who may be just projecting shadows? So, big topic, easy solution, not an easy journey getting there. Reflection, self-work, inner development, research right, left hemisphere aspects, research masculine, feminine energy, research what the shadow side of these are, because in my belief system, what we're doing is we're living in the shadowlands and we don't realize it, and we're normalizing the projection of the shadow to our partners, into our lives, into our career fields, and creating solutions to normalize actually what needs to be integrated. So, thanks guys.
We know from what Pascal was saying hundreds of years before Gödel that the end point of rationality is to demonstrate the limits to rationality. In our modern world, we've developed something that looks awfully like the left hemisphere's world. We prioritize the virtual over the real. The technical becomes important. Bureaucracy flourishes. The picture, however, is fragmented. There's a loss of uniqueness. The how has become subsumed in what. And the need for control leads to a paranoia in society, that we need to govern and control everything. Why this shift? I think there are three reasons. One is the left hemisphere's talk is very convincing because it shaved everything that it doesn't find fits with its model off and cut it out. So this particular model is entirely self-consistent, largely because it's made itself so. I also call the left hemisphere the Berlusconi of the brain, because it controls the media. It's the one with which it's very vocal on its own behalf. The right hemisphere doesn't have a voice, and it can't construct these same arguments. And I also think, rather more importantly, there's a sort of hall of mirrors effect. The more we get trapped into this, the more we undercut and ironize things that might have led us out of it. And we just get reflected back into more of what we know about what we know about what we know. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not against whatever it is the left hemisphere has to offer. Nobody could be more passionate in an age in which we neglect reason and we neglect careful use of language. Nobody could be more passionate than myself about language and about reason. It's just that I'm even more passionate about the right hemisphere and the need to return what that knows to a broader context. It turned out that Einstein's thinking somehow presaged this thing about the structure of the brain. He said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant, but has forgotten the gift.